And from the gate, the crest has gone.
The British royal family has been flatlie royal since 1840. Flatlie royal means illegitimate, not allowed on the throne.
With this ascension to the throne and the current situation with the coronavirus, is this all tied in?
The madness of all of this, you know, one of my favorite expressions was, I was telling my friend, I said, listen, I'm going to go and interview this man in England who claims he has this right to ascend the throne. And he said, you're talking science fiction. And it took me a second, and I said to him, I said, look at your life. You've been banged up for 3 months, locked down, can't see your loved ones. You got to wear a mask to go out. And I said, what science fiction? We're living in science fiction.
Let's go back to like, who is Joseph Gregory Hallett? Because, you know, this is a guy from New Zealand, you know, coming not from wealth, or you know, working as an architect for some years, living in a cave for a bit, you know, paying taxes, just wanting a good pint, you know, but also having like 18 assassination attempts, 12 in New Zealand, being blacklisted for 11 years. So when you look at his past, you know, how do you feel about his story?
It makes sense to me because, all right, so you got to go back very early. If you go back to his first part, he was basically about 4 or 5 years old, and he was at home. His father was a champion sheep shearer, which is quite funny because it goes back to being a shepherd, more or less, the biblical thing. So the Queen's doctor came to visit him as a little boy and said, hey, everything all right there, old chap? He said, yes. So he had a little visit from the Queen, and then about 18 months later, there was one of the sons of the previous king was living in New Zealand, and he said, bring him down because I need your father to shear the sheep. And it was a tradition at the big shearing that all eat cold meat sandwiches. So then he was introduced to another royal family. But he said it happened periodically. It sort of grew. And then when he was 18, he had that initiation. Anubis came to me. He said, I was just doing something normal. He said it wasn't even in the middle of the night. He said it was the day, if I remember. He said all of a sudden, he said, I thought I was having a psychotic episode. You know, like a reaction to something. I thought I'd been drugged.
That'd be scary.
I started seeing all these symbols coming, and then he was, you know, then he was dead. Then he woke up, but he did it in front of his flatmate, his roommate, and the roommate was white. And they called the ambulance, and the ambulance looked inside and saw the mess. He said, "I ain't going in there, man." And then, you know, 21, he started traveling. And then when he was, he must have been about 27 when the incident in the Boston Library happened, and the esoteric CIA took him to Boston, took him to Athens, and then after Athens, they took him to Patmos, which is an island in Greece. And they said, "What do you feel about Patmos, man?" He's like, "Well, not a lot, mate." But then he went to another place called Ephesus, which I've been to as well. There's another weird story. You know, we've been to all these similar ancient locations. So it was done slowly. It didn't. Or like nobody came and said to him, "Oh, by the way, you know, you're expected to lead the new times, new age, and bring humanity, spiritualism, you know, back up to consciousness, and you're going to lead us as the spiritual leader," because that's really how he sees himself. The king is going to give him the position to become the spiritual leader, and that's where I sort of feel he's more interested in. Yeah, king's very nice because he says it's funny. He says, "Isn't it funny? And I can be king and start messing with people. I can send messages to people the other side of the world and take them 3 days to understand that I was just messing." He has a great sense of humor. So yeah, it didn't happen overnight. So I followed the story and I followed his chain of thought and his emotional journey on it, because one of the other things he said, look, I didn't go looking for this. He says, do you know how mad it is trying to accept it, that you've got to do this, 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 and this? And he said, I rejected it so many times. I don't want it. I'm not interested. Take your Queen Victoria letter and leave me alone. And he did. He did it 3 times. And the same with the sword and the same with the Royal Mark. He's like, I just want to be let you know. But then the cave thing was interesting, because he told me about the cave, and then we went to see the cave. And a drawing that Sir Walter Raleigh did in 1580 something, it's got that coastline on it. And Greg was in the cave, and I was looking at it, and I was going, holy shit, it is. It is, and you can see that on there. So, wow. As outrageous as these stories are, you see, when you make a story up, you'll always slip up in it, because you can never tell at the same time, because it's a lie. But if it's truth, you'll remember it accurately. And I've tested on it. I said, tell me that one again. Tell me this one again. Tell me that one again. And he's always been consistent with the stories.
So, okay, so we see him growing up in New Zealand. Part of why he claims that he's allowed to be king is because New Zealand citizens are legally allowed to, hold the crown, right?
Yeah, it's a bit like, being born in Hawaii and the American president. It's considered, part of that. Yeah.
Hawaii.
Wasn't it Guam? Or did we say Kenya?
Yeah. It's interesting on that note, when he was claiming about the Clintons and how the Clintons are related to Winston Churchill.
Right,
how
yes.
Bill Clinton,
Bill Clinton was the son of Winston Churchill, placed as a strategic weapon, more or less. There's an official term of it. But he was, Clinton was adopted by an American family whose mother later became whose real mother later became the ambassador for the U.S. to France. And Clinton went to her funeral and said, she's given me more than I could ever tell you, or something like that. So it was this big clue.
Today I am here in no small measure because she was there. She was one of the easiest choices I made for any appointment when I became president. As she left to become our ambassador to France, she told us all with a smile, now my home in Paris will be your home. Please come and visit, but not all at once. It seems she had been having us at her home all at once for too many years.
Yeah, big clue that, that was his mother.
Yeah,
right?
His mother was really the son of, his mother was the wife of Winston's son. And Winston developed a real deep connection with her and fathered the child. The child was given away to this family in the States and raised knowing exactly where he's going to go, and weaponized.
Yeah, and he wasn't even, apparently, according to Joseph Gregory Hallett's story, he wasn't even born in the United States.
No, he was born in the UK.
Yeah. And then they moved him over. On that note of, I just want to make sure we're hitting on all of Joseph Gregory Hallett's points with regards to the royal family. Part of why he says that they're, I think it's flat lie, right? Flat lie royals.
Yeah, it's illegitimate. It's a lie, basically. Illegitimately placed on the throne.
And he goes, he goes back to even the 1500s or the 1200s, proving it. But when for more recent kind of seeing how this could have happened, he says in 1814, after the Battle of Waterloo, the British royal family went bankrupt, they were broke, and they needed somebody to help fund their operation. So the Rothschilds bought and partially owned the breeding rights to the royals since then, and they've owned those rights from 1819 to 2019, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it was basically, again, to guarantee that their influence about how politics should be placed was done, because Queen Elizabeth's background, she should never have been there. So they deliberately placed her and manipulated. Because I mean, these guys, their plans are so far advanced. So they said, okay, here's what we'll do, and they're sick. You know what I mean? They're going to say, well, we're going to switch that baby, put this one in here. So that's our bloodline. We can manipulate that. And once that person's up and running, we can then blackmail him. And then we're going to do this. You know, they're so like trying to play chess with a Russian chess champion when, and the thing about it is you can't operate on their level because you're not as sick as them. Next question. Where are we going now?
Yeah, Joe, let's go deeper. We're going to call this deeper down the rabbit hole now, this portion with David Mahoney. So, Joe, let's go crazy here.
You really have prepared well, you two, haven't you?
Hey, I just like to, I stumbled into this work because I just found this fun. And when I get, I'm like, oh, Joseph Gregory Hallett, this is cool. And then I see, you put out, 3-part documentaries, and then miniseries, and then Zooms, and then you've got all of Charlie Ward's content and all the different people he's interviewing with them, and then there's group interviews with Joseph Gregory Hallett. You've got like 7 hours of just fun, to get through. Yeah,
Charlie's serious. He doesn't care about he doesn't care about anything. He just leaves all the comments on there. He says, I don't care. Let them all argue. I like my comments, but
I like the combination, and he's really, like he said, it's the best time to be alive right now, and it's a real treat to watch all this show go down. And speaking of the show, I just want to make sure we get fully encompassed of what Joseph Gregory Hallett's claiming with regards to the royal family being abdicated, and so he goes through, it goes through the Pope. The Pope's abdicated, the Queen's abdicated, the royal family stood aside. Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, is using a body double, and he's got 3 illegitimate children. Queen Elizabeth II is using a body double. Prince Philip isn't appearing. We also referenced him earlier with he was having agents for the royal family trying to distribute heroin to target the true royal family.
Yeah.
We've got Prince Andrew, who's being ousted all over the media. He's
forgot about him. You see, there's another part. Yeah, Epstein.
Yeah, the whole Epstein. Yeah, why don't you talk for a second about that? Just so.
Prince Andrew. He did this interview on television, and he was just squirming. The questions he was like all over the place, and he's always said that he doesn't sweat. But I tell you what, he was sweating that day. So I think he's going to be extradited imminently, or he's going to, there's been a terrible accident, and it's dreadful to say that Prince Andrew, unfortunately, has been killed in a helicopter accident. There'll be something
like that, yeah.
And trial in America, there's no way he'll go there. So whatever he does, whether he commits suicide or a fake suicide, I cannot see him ever going back to America and say, okay, I'm here to face charges. Let's see what Epstein has. Because you're guaranteed that Epstein's recorded absolutely everything that went on there. He's going to have cameras everywhere. So there's no way you can say, oh, that's not me. That's Photoshop. That's not me.
Yeah, so, he's definitely, looks like he's got himself into trouble. Even Donald Trump was talking about, I think he was talking about Bill Clinton, but this is all back in 2015.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem.
What do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an absolute cesspool. So,
the Clintons are friends
and he's
of
been
yours,
there
right?
for many times.
The Clintons are friends.
Well, I can't say friends, but I know
You're friendly. You know them.
They play at my clubs a lot. I have clubs, and everybody likes to play at my clubs.
Are you saying there's a political problem for her if she runs for president?
It could be a political problem. Look, he could be a political problem. Right now, he's Teflon, and right now, maybe not. But he could end up being a political problem.
This stuff has been known about, and it's really coming out. And, we're seeing every day, is he going to come into trial in the United States?
He'll never go.
Called in?
He'll wriggle out of it. He'll try to use all his royal connections. And there's 3 scenarios. They'll drop the charges, which means they've done a private deal where they say, okay, we'll drop the charges, but you testify about this person, what you know. There'll be a fake suicide or there'll be a real death. That's the only 3 scenarios for him. So he'll never stand trial. It's too embarrassing.
Yeah. So that's Prince Andrew.
What's the word? I think it's reached exit velocity now, hasn't it? Really, you can't control it. But Greg told me something interesting about both the princes and their wives. He said the Queen was trying to change the ascendancy laws. Instead of having been the firstborn son, she was trying to say, okay, let's include daughters and grandchildren straight away. So both of the sons were told to get married. And Prince William's wife was the daughter of a friend of Prince Philip. So Prince Philip, it's her granddaughter. Sorry, there's a link there. And they're all hunting buddies. So apparently, there was a setup, more or less. Prince William went to a special club in London, which was a bit of a, English people are very repressed sexually, especially the more royal you are, the more weird you are. It's not like you can just go down the pub, have a few beers, get drunk and grab all of, have a bit of a dance and then have a roll around like most teenagers can do. Their whole lives are scrutinized. It's all done under, they can't relax. So his relationship was apparently more or less fixed. He met this girl, his wife, and something happened where there was some sort of business deal between Prince Philip and the other side of it, the Mountbatten side, somewhere came in. I can't remember, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I've fallen in love. It was like, oh, I've got to get married. Try not to swear. You might have people that get offended here.
No,
so,
I think, yeah, definitely.
Same thing for Harry. He was told to take a wife. So it all happened very quickly. And then there's also been photographs released of Prince William's wife faking the pregnancy, where she had a pillow stuffed up her dress.
I saw that, yeah.
And it dropped out when they were getting back in the car. So,
oh man,
because there's 3 distractions that the royal family love. It's births, marriages, and christenings. They all love a marriage. They all love a new baby coming. So you cannot believe anything. You know what? Unless you can actually touch it, you can't believe it. So, yeah, the whole side of those princes doing this, it's all very questionable. And the thing is that Greg gets his book. I mean, everywhere they move, he knows it. He says, nah, man, that's bullshit. He says, this is what really happened. And he's not trying to say it. I'm holding back because I might say something that's not true because I've remembered it wrong. But Greg will tell you the truth about that. He'll say, yeah, it was something about, I want to say, it's not the Kit Kat Club, but it was something to do with it. Was it the Kitten Club? Something like that he talked about, where they met, the Kitten Club in London, which was like a high-end sort of, what goes on behind closed doors. One would never speak about such things before. Good God.
Sounds like a honeypot club.
Well, I remember
Playboy Mansion.
In the media, they actually did say that the Middletons were friends of the royal family.
Yeah.
That they did say.
Yeah, they did. Mm-hmm. Lady Diana, he said, didn't die in a car accident. She was evacuated in a small white car. And then I said to him, is she alive? And he gave me the eyebrows when I asked it once. Then when I asked it a few days later, he went,
wow.
When I've asked him recently, he said, I reckon I know where she is.
Wow. Speaking on Princess Diana, like he's making some spectacular claims with regards to her. Like he's saying that she knows him and that she thinks that Joseph Gregory Hallett is the king. And she was trying to expose some of these, the pedophilia, some of the awful stuff that was going on. And they were trying to take her out because she was willing to tell on all the secrets of the royal family, right?
Well, there was something strange happened last week. He sent me a link to Princess Diana's niece has got engaged to a man called Gregory Hallett.
No.
Yeah, can you believe this shit? You couldn't make it up, could you? Gregory Hallett. And he just sends me these random links like that. I'm going,
I can see that as a way of like trying to make the public more okay with the name And that's insane.
I think, the problem is that the average public doesn't pick up on these things. You've got to spoon feed it to them like children and baby food, really. I mean, they're going to have some of these people that, the other thing is, you talked about when aliens come down, if all of a sudden extraterrestrials just came and said, we are really the Anunnaki, and then the Nephilim, and it goes back to ancient Mesopotamia. If you just told them that, all the religions would go out the window, and they'd just, whack that in. They're blowing their own brains out with too much information. So, yeah. And the
go ahead. Well, let's just let me do a couple more things on the royal family, just with regards to Princess Diana. So some of his claims is that Prince William, where he's said in an interview, like, I have no shoes, I have no socks, I have no trousers, kind of like admitting that, he's kind of being stripped of everything. So Prince William's real father, according to Joseph Gregory Hallett, is King Juan Carlos, and his mother is Princess Diana, right?
Yeah.
Wow. So she was kind of, according to him, she was told, you're with the family runt. We don't want to breed with him.
You know what? That story that happened where I live. I live in a town called Marbella. It's spelled Marbella. The Saxon Goth. I've never remembered that family name, but I'm more or less right. They have a villa here, and that meeting happened when the first year I moved here. So in 96 or something, they had that meeting where they said at the meeting, Prince Charles will never be king because you're the runt of the family. This is the group that control who sits on the thrones. They said, you'll never be King Charles. And then Princess Diana was told, do not have children with him. So she didn't. And then in the summers that led up to after the birth of Prince William, there was some extremely revealing photographs in a Spanish publication called Hello magazine. It's called Hola magazine. And you could see the photographs of Carlos with Prince William in emotional embraces that certainly would suggest that there's a father embracing his son. And as they've got older, there is a very strong resemblance to him. If you look at how William looked at the same age as Juan Carlos did, there's a strong resemblance. And we know that they've maintained a very strong relationship over the years. They're good pals. So I would not really even consider any other possibility now, because he doesn't really look like Charles. And considering what we know about the royal family and how they do these things secretly, it's like that. It's like they find that, when they put the pea underneath the cup and they do this, it's like that. They do this. One hand is doing something else, but they're distracting you with a royal wedding while they're over here doing something else. So I would think that's true. Too much evidence.
Thank you for touching on that. So let's talk about, we talked a little bit about the military intelligence aspect that Joseph Gregory Hallett claims to have, being a part of like CIA missions, or not missions, but he was being groomed by the CIA from a younger age. What kind of evidence do you see of, the military helping him out with this?
So I know Greg has a contact in the White House. It's a spiritual contact in the White House that passes over information and confirms things. Now, this is not a phone call that goes on every day, but it happens. And they have a certain way of communicating. Even down to the dress that Kaylee, the press secretary, wears. And strange things like this, she does a lot of things in code. She wore a dress the other day, which was bright yellow, which was, what does the yellow signify? They do, because she dresses, she has reds and yellows and really bright colors. And then it's all codes like this they use. And it's to get the messages out, like how Q does it on his, or shall we say Justin now.
Austin,
Austin does have military intel contacts that are telling him certain amount of what's going on. But over the years, he's been picked up strange people like ex-bodyguards come and find him. Ex-security staff just show up at his place and say, hey, I've got some stories to tell you. And he had an ex-security guard turn up once and tell him that he was a security guard to Charles when Charles was 18, 19, 20. And Charles fathered a child with a servant who was, I think, Aboriginal or something. He has a half-black son in Australia now. He's about 40, maybe 50. And Diana found out about that too and did some symbol, like she went to Australia and was holding up an Aboriginal child that was half white going like this, you know, so the Queen could know.
Wow.
He's got a lot. He has fathered quite a few children. I think there's at least 2, but they're born out of wedlock. And there's another child that him and Camilla Parker Bowles and himself had a child when they were very young, and the child was raised and moved to
Australia. Is that right?
Australia, yeah. And
yeah, I heard him talking about, and so, you know, this is where it gets really interesting when someone like Greg Hallett starts sharing information that we may not have ever heard before, right? He says, this is something the way it is. And he starts telling a story. And they're things that you never even heard from any other source prior to. Then you start looking into
He's great at that. Like, well, so yeah, way too many things to be called, oh, that's just a coincidence. This is another coincidence. How many coincidences do you need? One of we put at the end of the episode of the Oranga signature fading in, we said, do you believe in coincidences? You know, there's too many things.
On that note of, you know, coincidences, maybe spelled with a Q.
I should have done that, actually.
Tell like, you know, I was so funny in the last part 2 with the Zoom when he's like, do you see the Q? Do you see the Q?
Still, I love it, man. People want to buy this flag, by the way.
Q. See the Q?
Oh yeah, I do now. Yeah. That's why.
Q is the 17th letter of the alphabet, and 17 is the number of Portugal. So, kind of what they're saying is that this had to happen in Portugal, right?
Yeah.
And like, you know, so tell me what his relationship with QAnon is.
Well, he likes all that, you know. He's not saying he is Q, by the way, just in case anybody's thinking he's Greg Q. Nah, he's like, the king, the flag in it has got 3 sevens, and the 7 is the sign of the new times, new age. The other 7 is hard to do, but when you turn it around, because he's left the side of it open, it looks like a Q. There's no way that he designed it, because Greg didn't design it. I know who did, and it wasn't designed with a Q. That really is a coincidence. So, but his opinion of the Q movement, he says it's great because they keep dropping all this intel. And I think if you were to tell them about this quantum computing system about, you know, in and out of dimensional time travel, and it was actually this Justin that you were talking about, I think he'd probably say, yeah, that sounds about right. I think he would say. But I mean, he's pretty, yeah. Q as well. I like it, but, you know, the problem is to try and, you know, do all the numbers and say, okay, what's this and what's this and what's this? I mean, it's too much for me. I've got other things. I can't be decoding things all the time. It's just too much work. I'd rather just say, okay, this is what's going to happen. This is why it's happened. I'm like, oh, that's better. You know?
Yeah. So just so we're clear, you're saying, you know, the person who designed his flag and symbol, and that was not intentionally put there, but it just so happens that it fits.
Yeah, when you turn it upside down, what was intentionally, he said, well, we need 3 sevens, and he likes the number, and the grail is in there. And then when he took, because behind that doorway is his storeroom, and he put the flag over the door just so people can't see. It's usually, you know, he's got all these books in there, so he just put it over there because he does all these Zoom calls from there.
You know, when you're talking about the 2 Jesuses, just to, you know, like, let's touch on that part of the story a bit, because, you know, it's a very touchy subject anytime you bring up religion, especially because this is rewriting history, you know.
Well, I know that's what we said. We said this is going to rock the foundations of the church, and it could rewrite history.
Yeah, and he's, Joseph Gregory Hallett is claiming that with the information he's putting forth, in his own books, he says volumes 4 and 5 of The Hidden King of England, he is actually, he's exposing the secret of the Vatican, that there are two Jesuses. Not like, he claims that there's Jesus, King of the Jews, Jesus of Nazareth, and then there's Barabbas.
Barabbas, yeah.
Yeah, so he's also referenced in the Bible, and
Jesus was the Son of Man, not the Son of God, which is where people are getting mixed up, and they think Christ was his last name as a title. So
right.
Barabbas was his third cousin.
Mm-hmm. So part of Greg's claim is that, they were written in some Vatican scripture that, if Jesus comes back, he's by and default the King of England, aka King of the World.
King of the world.
Right.
Well,
go ahead.
The Vatican wrote a description of how the next Christ would appear, and all of this description, white hair, white beard, wide feet. He has what do they call it? A special tone of skin. It's like, it wasn't orange, it was like opal colored skin. And he will be a man, he will come back from the clouds. And New Zealand is known in Maori as the land of the clouds. He would be born in between Bethlehem and the mountain. He's done all of it. And he keeps laughing. He says, you can't make it up. I started, And then we lived above a bakery, the substance of life. So the biggest secret is there's two Jesus, and the church took all the land until the Christ came back. And when Greg submitted all these documents to say, I fulfill all of your predictions. I am the true Christ title bearer, and I'd like it, please. And they've given it to him. Again, nothing official, because all these guys. There's three main entities here that have been controlling it. The Vatican is the money side of things, and they've been controlling all of that. London City is a bit like the Vatican City. The Queen cannot enter London City without notification and approval. So the reason for that is in London City is where all the finance goes through, and they're all responsible for cleaning all of the money from the Vatican. And then Washington, D.C. is the military arm that will carry out all of the combat missions such as Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, Libya, ISIS, Syria. Do we need to go on?
Right.
Get it all. So what was interesting is during lockdown, Italy was one of the first countries that was placed into lockdown. And the amount of trucks that were removing things from Italy, the gold bullion, and Venice was the families that controlled George Soros were based in Venice. And that's why Italy got such a severe lockdown straight away, because they went in there and did all that big clearing out. And the Venice family, the ones that control all of the birth certificates. You guys know about the birth certificates?
Explain for us and for the audience.
So every single person that's born on the planet has a value, and the value is calculated from your birth certificate. So you, being born in Southern California, will have, education, college, all of the drugs that you'll need, the medical health care. You'll get a mortgage, you'll get car loans, credit card debts, everything. So your birth certificate as a consumer is probably worth about $450,000 to $500,000 in your lifetime, because they know that you will consume and get credit cards and car loans and mortgages and wife and kids and colleges and all this, and that's what you're worth. Somebody like me in my country, we don't have excessive spending. We only have, our college fees are less, our health care is free. So we don't have the same financial offers sent to us in the UK and Europe. We're a little bit less spendy. We don't have massive TVs that were as big as a bus in our house. and an RV on the driveway. So our birth certificate value is probably about half that, $250,000. So, and then in Africa, they're worth not very much. And then, you know, all the other countries all work out. But the church, the Vatican, controls that. So there's one group of people that use these birth certificates for everybody that's born, and they use them as leverage. They use them as collateral. They trade with them. So they say, okay, we've got 500 million people in, well, let's say 300 million people in America, and all of their birth certificates, you know. They can assess how much they're worth. And of course, some of them people will die. Some people won't just spend much. Some people get addicted to drugs and they go, you know. But on average, it's an equational graph that they can follow about how much they're worth. And this is one of the big scandals, because the church said, bring me your souls. Bring me all your souls. But what they were saying was, bring me your birth certificates so we can start trading them. And this is where all the money is. So they need to keep us spending. And they need to keep us in debt. And this is, America is probably the #1 country for that, where people have got more debt than, you know. Are you in debt? You know, call this number now and we'll just send you a new credit card. Your car's 2 years old? Oh my God. What are you, like, poor?
The most severe law in this world is called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. It's the Bible of business on the earth. Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform Commercial Code is based directly on Vatican canon law, on the Roman canon law. Consequently, when a ship pulls into port, it pulls in and stops, and it's called in its berth. The ship is now in its berth. Because it is on the law of the high seas, or commercial maritime, UCC commercial law, rules the seas. So when the ship pulls into its berth, the first thing the captain must do is to present a certificate of manifest to the port authorities, which means that the port authorities need to know how much is on this ship that you're bringing into our country and our economy. How many TVs, how many cars, whatever you're bringing, how much are you bringing into our economy. So you have to have a certificate of manifest of what is the value of your ship here. What are you doing? Consequently, when you are born, you come out of your mother's water. Therefore, you must have a birth certificate, a certificate of manifest, because you are a corporation-owned item. You are a human resource. This goes back to the German Nazi concept that every human coming out of their mother's water must be birthed. And therefore you have to have a certificate, a manifest, to see how much this individual is going to make for us in our new world order. I'm telling you that until you understand the laws, the symbols, the emblems, what these words mean, you're never going to suspect how far gone we really are. Did you know, for instance, that your birth certificate is a security on the stock exchange in the New York stock market? Did you know that? Because if you order your birth certificate, get a new one, order your birth certificate, it'll only cost you, sometimes it's free, it'll only cost you a few dollars. Order your birth certificate. On your birth certificate, all birth certificates in this country, on the bottom, it will tell you this is printed on security papers. Do not accept if not on full color security paper. Then on the right-hand corner, you will always have a series of numbers, red numbers, printed on the birth certificate. Those numbers are a security stock exchange number on the World Stock Exchange. You go to any good stock office and ask them, check these numbers in your computer and see how much your stock is worth, the certificate. And they will check it on the New York Stock Exchange and find your birth certificate is a stock on the stock exchange in America. Why? Because you are worth money to the international bank that bought you in 1930. We need to wake up. This is serious stuff.
Yeah, with
that's where it gets interesting with the Jasara, the Nasara that Charles and Joel started discussing. And, you know, it was really interesting to hear a lot of people saying that these stimulus packages that are being sent out in the UK, in the United States, in Canada, in these other countries are the first wave of that.
Yeah. We're actually I get messages every day on our social media, and Lee Dawson and Charlie, they send us copies of their car loans that have just disappeared overnight. I've had car loans, utility bills, student loans, all these people say, send me a screenshot. I haven't done anything with them yet. And
Man, I should have gotten some bigger loans before.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't have any debt. I'm going to go out and buy something I don't want. How much is that? I'll take it. Yeah, so it is happening, guys. We're getting, and they're not. I can check out the Facebook profiles. They're just normal housewives and people, you know. So there's no reason why they're just going to say, "Oh my God, my car loan is gone." But they're watching our show and they're saying, "Yeah, it's true, man, because my loan's gone." And there's a guy called Charlie. Is it Charlie Freak? One of these guys that he says his loan was gone.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and to anyone who's skeptical about, you know, taxation and loans, this is a relatively very recent thing with income tax applied to humanity. You know, that was really only instituted as recently as World War II.
Yeah.
Prior to that, countries received the income that they needed to pave the roads and put up schools and support the military defense of the general population through things like sales tax and purchase tax.
Yeah, it was an emergency act for times of war, and they just kept it there because, again, nobody complained about it too much.
Yeah, when we're now.
Next
now
question.
when we're focusing now on this, like the new news, because Joseph Gregory Hallett is, you know, part of the new news, and he's, you know, rewriting our, you know, some of our like founding documents.
Well, I'll tell you about that. He says, you know, the problem, here's interesting. The Magna Carta, which is what the English Constitution is based on, was it King John, wasn't even at the signing, and it's not signed by him. So Greg is reformulating the Magna Carta, which puts your Declaration of Independence in jeopardy as well. So I said, what are you going to do about that? And he says, well, it's pretty good. There's a few things we could tweak, but he says, I'll wait till they ask me.
Yeah, I remember he was like, I told Donald Trump he could change the Constitution because I found the Magna Carta wasn't, you know, valid. Yeah, and it's like, whoa, that's a huge claim right there. That's
based on the Magna Carta.
And so, okay, so, you know, he's helping rewrite this stuff, and now he's saying he's helping, you know, write in JSARA what the guidelines are, what they should be. And one of the biggest parts of JSARA, besides finally, you know, no more debt, no more poverty, you know, real health care, is this Nikola Tesla free energy next gen healing aspect of it that Greg talked about. He's like, you know, suppressed technologies coming out to the public. What kind of conversations have you had with him to where you know, to make that connection, to see that's legit?
Yeah, and actually I found out that both Trump and Greg are both related to Nikola Tesla.
How?
So they're saying that Trump's got his diaries, the ones that disappeared. Greg says there's thousands of technology advances from medicine to health treatments to energy resources. The only thing he says what's going to happen, we all basically get a guaranteed minimum salary. But he said it's going to be chaotic because people won't believe it. You know, it's like if you get money sent to your account and you think, hang on, I shouldn't really have that. The first thing you're doing is, you know, you're looking over your shoulder saying, I'm going to buy something with it. You know, and then they can't take it back. It's mine, my precious. So
all this money that was being shoved away is now going to be used for like a universal base income, right? Right? How does that look for, you know, the everyday person, in your opinion?
Well, we're starting to see it roll out in Spain already, where they've employed 8,000 just on this part of the coast, 8,000 people just to keep the beaches clean and tidy, and they're paying them €3,000 a month.
Wow,
that's never happened before, and I think that's just programming for JSARA. Then I think the next stage will be probably 100,000 to look after the landscaping of this, you know, the countryside, and then you'll get
Wow.
probably another 100,000 to 500,000 who work in the forestry commission. Then I think it will finish up with the big one, which will probably be a million jobs to clean up the ocean.
Wow.
So I think all the jobs will be to look after the planet we live in to start with. I think that's how it will roll out to start with. And having seen the first one start without 8,000 jobs, there was 80,000 applications for 8,000 jobs. And I just see that as being that's actually now happened. You've got 8,000 people on the beach, keeping the beaches clean and tidy, being paid €3,000 a month. That's a good salary.
So you're saying it's going to look like universal base income, but also it's going to be, jobs that are meant to, instead of like building some shit, it's going to be cleaning up our own Earth, basically.
Looking after our planet.
Looking after our planet. Man, that's beautiful.
That's fabulous.
Then you'll get all the boozers, then you get all the druggies. They'll just go on complete benders. He said it'll be a while till it settles down so people accept it, that, I really do have this transfer every month which pays my mortgage, and I don't have to go to a terrible job that I hate unless I want to.
How much are we looking at?
Well, I think it's going to be the basic salary is about between, like in Europe, it's going to be about $1,500. €1,200 is what you need. The average rent's about $650, but yeah, you can live on that. You're not living great, but you're living. Do you want to ask one last thing? Is that it?
I think we should wrap right now. This is enough editing, I really think.
Yeah.
It's been a real pleasure, guys. I look forward to meeting you soon for a beer.